My first day at the office, I was like one of the only women there. It was really odd for me to be in this male-dominated room, but I did have one mentor. I don't know if I'd be here today if it wasn't for her.
Having success in selling, male or female, is very hard in solar.
I was on the doors 10 days on, 1 day off, so determined to make it work. My first couple weeks on the doors, it was the most rejection I'd ever experienced in my life. But I weirdly got addicted to facing all those rejections, improving what I could have changed, and then finding my yeses.
In sales, how important is regulating your emotions?
This job has its challenges. That's kind of the beautiful thing about it, is even in those moments of being in a lull, everybody in sales goes through that.
The reason we're paid a lot of money in this job is because we are paid to be able to process very highs and lows in our emotions.
Those things that you see as maybe your weaknesses are actually your superpowers.
What would you say to the women out there that aspire to be a leader one day? Welcome to the V.I.P, the Valor Impact Podcast. My name is John Soriano. We believe that you can have it all, that you can be successful in all areas of your life, your faith, your family, your fitness, your finance, that you do not have to choose between one or the other. And as you listen in, take notes, take it all in, ask yourself, how can I apply this today? How can I go out there and execute today? Because we're going to teach you a wide range of things, from sales, from leadership, to finances, to mindset, to even how to have success in sales and in your marriage. And my only ask is that you like this video, you subscribe to it, you share it with somebody in the sales industry, and that you also ultimately go out there and execute on everything that you want. Welcome to the VIP, the Valor Impact Podcast, where we are on a mission to raise up 10,000 men and women of valor. We do so by interviewing a lot of amazing individuals who have done hard things, who have courage in the face of adversity, and we want to extract the gold out of them so that ultimately you can live a life of purpose and one of impact. And today we have Hailey Kamfar on the show today. She is a woman that has accomplished remarkable things in the short period that she's been in sales, and specifically solar sales. And so, Hailey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, John. When you texted me about this, I couldn't have been more excited about the opportunity. And things I want to talk about today are some of my favorite topics, just in the world of women and sales and all of the above. So thank you for having me.
I think our audience today will quickly find out that you are a rare individual. Sales is mainly a male-dominated industry, right? I think, I know at least in our organization, we have probably like 85% of salespeople are males, right? Because it's a very demanding job, right? And it's a job that wears on everybody, whether you're male or female. And so for you to have accomplished what you've accomplished, but while still embracing your femininity, has been really, really amazing to watch. And we're going to get into that. But before we do, kind of share with people a little bit about your background. Share with us ultimately, what got you into sales to begin with. Like, I don't think none of us were like in kindergarten when they're like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Nobody said, I want to be in sales, or I want to be in door sales. None of us ever had that, right? We probably said doctor or lawyer, but yet here we are. And so share with us kind of a little bit about your background, and then ultimately what made you get into sales.
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I've been with Legacy for going on 2 years now. It'll be about a year and a half. And before that, I was with another solar company, and really I dabbled in sales a little bit prior to that, but nothing to the scale of what solar sales is. This working in solar has been my first experience ever working in sales. And just like you said, nobody ever in kindergarten is planning to work in sales. I kind of stumbled into it, honestly. During COVID, like a lot of us, life was just changing. My husband and I moved from the LA area to San Diego, and a job option that was sort of my plan, everything changed once COVID hit, right? Everything closed down.
Yeah.
So I found myself trying to figure out what to do with my life, honestly. And so through Indeed, looking at job opportunities, seeing what is out there, I stumbled on a a solar sales opportunity. And I kind of just was like, I hadn't really thought much about even solar at all, really. But I thought, you know what? What the heck? These are crazy times we're in. Who knows what's happening? Let me just apply. And got the job, got into the industry, and quickly found that I think I could be pretty good at this. Now, it's funny that you mentioned that sales, and specifically solar sales, is a male-dominated industry, because my first day at the office, I was like one of the only women there. And I'm not really a tomboy. I didn't grow up as a tomboy. I am definitely like a girl's girl. So it was really odd for me to be in this like male-dominated room.
Right.
But I did have one mentor who I don't know if I'd be here today if it wasn't for her. Just really I really looked up to her. She was the one woman in the office, and she was my mentor. She was my closer, sort of taught me everything. And I think without her being sort of the representation of women in solar for me, when I was just getting into the business, was huge as far as shifting the trajectory of my solar sales career. So really grateful that I at least had someone to show me how it was done. Because it was totally an office full of boys, which is great and fun, but I needed to see it. I needed to sort of see that example.
Right. Yeah. And, I would love to even get into mentorship down the road, because you're somebody who has mentored a lot of amazing people. For those of you, watching, Hailey runs one of the largest squads in our division. You have 50, 60 people on your squad, but you only had about 5 or 6 18 months ago. And so you've been able to 10x, 12x what you started with 18 months ago to now. But before we get into that, I want to ask you, we keep saying male dominant industry. Why do you think sales in general, right? Or we can even talk door-to-door sales in general. Like, why do you think it is? Why is it male dominated? Why is it that most women, when they hear sales door to door, they're just completely turned off from it? And they're like, there's no way. Like, what makes it a male dominant industry?
It's just so interesting. I think it could be a few different things. And it really depends on the woman. Like, it's hard to make blanket statements, right? When everyone, regardless of male or female, everyone at the end of the day is a uniquely different individual.
Right.
Something that I think I can only speak to myself and my own experience. As a young woman, I don't think that we, or at least I didn't, face a ton of rejection through my life. Very blessed, very privileged, like shout out to my mom and dad. Like I lived, I had a great childhood, and really like as a lady, you don't experience a ton of rejection. I think even just in society, right? Young men kind of grow up and you're pursuing women, right? In most cases. And so maybe just that like experience of rejection, maybe in some way men are more comfortable with. And again, I can only speak to my own experience, but like rejection is not something I was super comfortable with or had experienced a lot of.
Yeah. And so that probably turns off a lot of women, because they're used to maybe getting things their way, or they have a certain way, right?
Sure.
This super random thought I just had, but something I remember a buddy told me years ago was like, if a woman is born not attractive, she can at least do something about it. If a man is born not attractive, he's screwed, right? We can't put on makeup. We can't. So we have to always be in the pursuit. We're women, right? If they want to get what they want, they have certain ways that maybe a man can't do. And so I never thought about it like that, where maybe most women kind of have been used to getting what they want out of life, right? Because we live in a society where, we value women, right? We do, as we should, right? Women are seen as beautiful and sacred and something that's worthy of protecting. Where men, right? We have to be the hunters. We have to be the ones that are more of the risk takers, more of the ones that are on the front lines. When war happens, we don't send women to the front line, right? We send men to the front line, and we're the ones that, as a society. So I've never really made those two connections, but it's actually interesting you say that. But women are built for rejection, right? It's just that some don't maybe believe that they are. How did you get through rejection? Because it wasn't easy. It wasn't like, you got your first door slam and you're like, oh, that's okay. Like, I'm sure you broke down. I know I did. My first rejection, I went home. I was like, this is so hard. So how were you able to get through rejection in your initial few months?
When I first got into solar, I remember I went to my first meeting and I was like, these guys, like everyone is going to open their door to me. Everyone is going to say yes. Like this, I got this. I got this. And you get out into the hood and it truly, when you're on the doors, it doesn't matter if you're male or female or what color your skin is or how tall you are or how young or old you are. Everyone has a customer out there. Yeah. And so it truly doesn't matter. But my first couple weeks on the doors, it was the most rejection I'd ever experienced in my life. And I was like, wow, this is different than I expected this job would be. Yeah. But I weirdly got addicted to it. I got addicted to like facing all those rejections, improving what I could have changed, and then finding my yeses.
Yeah.
Like it just got addicting. Really door-to-door sales can be very addicting because it's hard, but the results that you get from it are so worth it that you just get hungrier and hungrier for it again and again. Yeah. And I think to some degree too, being a female on the door is something I say when I'm training people or mentoring women in particular, is you may get more doors opened, right? From knock to the door open. But once that door opens, like it is an even playing field. Like you better have your door approach dialed. Right. You better dial in your objection handling. You better know what you're talking about. Once that door opens, it's game over. It's the same for everyone else. But I think that it might be true from the moment you hit that door, there is maybe more curiosity as to like, what is this chick doing on my doorstep?
Yeah. What have been some tools that you have used that have helped you gain the success you've had? Maybe certain books you've read, or I know you talked about, you had a mentor when you first started. Like, what were some things that you did to kind of help you get that initial momentum?
Yeah, I think mentorship, like just doing what all my mentors told me to do. If they told me to do something or told me to change something or told me to tweak my door approach or sat in on one of my closes and told me to change something, I just did it. I completely bought into the mentorship program. I realized, okay, I know a lot about a lot of things, but right now I know nothing about solar and nothing about door to door. So I had to humble myself and be a sponge.
Yeah.
And I think you carry that with you throughout your whole career, your whole life. Right. Like just because you become a closer,
well, I think the moment you stop being a student, is when you place a ceiling over your life, right? And so you knew that. I mean, I think it's easy to see that maybe in the beginning.
Yeah.
But something I noticed about you though is you still are a student today. I don't think you've never once displayed this kind of personality like, oh, I'm good, I have it all figured out. Like, no, we're all students. And I think the moment we stop learning is when we finally put a ceiling over our growth and we actually start to decline. Yeah.
The moment you think you know it all is actually life will humble you and make you realize you don't. Yeah. So there's always a lesson.
So I want to talk about femininity. So, I think, femininity is an energy, just like masculinity is an energy, right? So masculine is the protector, or is the hunter, the kind of version of us, right? Which we all have it, right? It's maybe the more aggressor, right? And then you have femininity is the more nurturing, the more empathetic one, the more caring one. And both guys and girls have both energies, right? And I think in the sales process, though, it's you got to have this kind of dance of both. Because if you're all masculine, whether you're a guy or girl, if you're all masculine, then you can come off as aggressive. You can come off as like, oh, he's very pushy. He's too pushy, right? But if you come off also as like too feminine, then people take advantage of you, right? Yeah. They walk all over you. They don't take you as seriously. And so I think there's kind of a dance that has to happen in the close, because I think people naturally trust women because you show up feminine, right? I think women are just naturally more trustworthy versus when a dude shows up at the door, people are quick to be like, oh, I don't know if I trust this guy. But a woman shows up at the door, I think there's just something natural about a woman that's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna listen to her, I'm gonna trust her. So all that to say this, how have you used your femininity, right? How have you been able to tap into that part of you to help you achieve great results. Because I mean, people trust you, like both on the customer side. You also lead a big team. That means people also trust you for you to lead them. I mean, how have you been able to dig into your feminine power to get the results that you've had today?
Yeah, I think about it a lot. I think there's a few different things actually. I noticed that on the doors, like I said, like you'll definitely get more people listening to you or opening that door, curiosity. So I tap into that for sure on the doors. Um, we talked about it a little bit before with rejection.
Mm.
And men are sort of pursuing, right? Natural pursuers, and women often attract, right? But we both know in this business and door to door, you have to be on the hunt when you're in the hood.
Right.
So, as feminine, girly girl as you can be, there's a time to like turn on the masculine.
Exactly.
And you have to do that in this job. There's a time and a place to turn it on. But I find that having it balanced with my femininity, like especially in home, in a close, I find that female closers actually listen more than male closers do. And I can't say that about everyone, right? But women have this ability to kind of even nurture the homeowner, nurture the customer, make them feel like very cared about, like we're going to solve all their problems. And the ability to listen is huge in sales. And I think women are just naturally really good at that too.
Yeah. I mean, I know my wife is.
Yeah.
I know oftentimes I listen to respond.
Yeah.
And she's listening to really listen. You know what I mean? She's really listening to me. So, and that's the superpower in the home.
Yeah.
Because I think if there's a saying like, hey, people forget what you said, what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And if you make somebody feel valued, like, wow, this person really cares about me, you can be selling anything and they'll buy it because they're like, I trust you. So how important do you think, I think often men are kind of afraid to be real with their emotions and like say things and just be like, hey, this is hard. Or sometimes let out a good cry. Yeah. I know it's a little taboo to talk about in this industry. I mean, look, I've had a fair share of kind of my good cries. I mean, I don't know if you have, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but how important is it, do you think, to be able to be real with your emotions? I think women are great at that. Women are really good at sharing where they're actually at emotionally, where men tend to brush you under the rug, have this like, oh, I'm good, everything's good, but really they're not good, they're struggling. That's why suicide rates are a lot higher, way higher for men than there are for women, right? Because men bottle up until boom, one day it just comes crashing down. So, I mean, in sales, how important is like regulating your emotions?
It's so important. I mean,
and how do you regulate it? Because I mean, when you're having a bad day, walk with us, kind of what's your process like? Like, have you had a day where you just cried because it was the rejection got to you? Or
many. It's hard. I think I struggle with that too. Kind of actually the opposite of what you're saying, funny enough. I think because, as a society, right, we always hear this, women are emotional, women are more emotional. And in some ways it's true, right? We're more connected to our emotions, or it's less taboo to open up about them when we are experiencing those things, the tough days or the days where just everything's going wrong. I think sometimes I've actually struggled with that because I'll tell myself that, oh, I can't, cry to John because that's being too overly emotional. It's I'm being an overly emotional female. And so I think sometimes actually that's been something that I've struggled with, is because I know as a woman, I'm more nurturing, maybe more emotional at times, and not to a fault. It's totally okay. And actually a superpower in a lot of ways. I sometimes have to gauge, where am I telling myself that I'm not allowed to be because I'm a woman?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think that that's probably a lot of women in many different careers can relate to that. There's that taboo thing of not being the overly emotional female. So it's interesting. I don't even know if I have a question for that, as much as, wanting to share with women that like, it's okay to feel like that. That
Tell us a story where you experienced that.
Yeah. When I first got into solar sales and I was a setter, I was on the doors. I hadn't had my first sale yet. And I'd mentioned one of my mentors was a woman. But I had another mentor who was a man. And I was working so hard. This job can be really challenging at first when you're first getting into it. And I was on the doors. I was like 10 days on, 1 day off, so determined to make it work. And it was wearing on me. My confidence was down. I wasn't having the results that a lot of other people that started around the same time as I did had. And I came into the office for training one day. It was a setter training. We were doing pitch practice, and I was the first person there. I walk in the door and he's like, "Hey, Hailey, how are you? How's it going?" And I burst into tears. I completely just, everything was bottled up in me. I was trying to be super strong. I was trying to, go to my pitch training and work with my mentor and like, yeah, I'm going to get a deal this week. And I just walked in the door and just started crying my eyes out. And I was so embarrassed, but I just couldn't hold it in. The doors and the industry was getting the best of me. And he was so great and responded so well, and was so kind. And then he actually shared a story with me about how he literally cried, called his mom, cried like in his first month in solar.
Yeah.
And that moment was huge for me because this narrative and the story I was telling myself of like, I can't be that overly emotional woman in the workplace. My male mentor was just telling me about, how he cried too. And it's funny because being a female leader now, you would be so surprised how many men on my team have cried to me that maybe wouldn't open up in that way to a male leader. And so I don't take that for granted. I super am touched by that and honored to have people open up to me in that way that maybe they wouldn't, some of my male counterparts.
Yeah. No, and it's funny how we don't normalize this behavior, like even as I hear the word like overly emotion, it's like, why can't we just be, we just have emotions? Like, what is overly emotional? Like, what does that even look like? And who gets to decide this is normal emotions, this is too much emotions, and this is too little emotions, And I think if you're going through it, it's okay to talk to someone about it.
Yeah.
I know with me and my wife, like sometimes I'm going through it and I don't even understand my own emotions. And I'll go to her and say, hey, I don't need anything from you. I just need you to listen and just let me process this out loud. And I'll just start talking. And as I'm talking, sometimes I realize that what I'm saying sounds very irrational. It doesn't even make sense, but I just need to get it out.
Yeah.
I think oftentimes we need that person, like you had that mentor, we need that person that can just hear us out and just like, hey, just hear me out. And oftentimes just simply talking about it solves 90% of the problem, right? And then even if they just listen, and someone's there. Because I wonder if someone else would have asked you, are you okay? Or how are you doing? I wonder if you would respond the same way. I'm going to venture to say there was something about that mentor that you trusted him, right? Because if somebody else said, hey, how are you doing? But you didn't trust them, you probably would have been like, oh, I'm good. You probably would not have burst into tears, maybe, right? But because there was some level of trust, you feel comfortable just being able to be like, hey, let me process with you what I'm going through. And I think oftentimes when we process what's going through us, we feel a lot better. And I know, for people like watching this, they're like, all right, John, what does this have to do with solar sales? I mean, I would say
everything.
It has everything to do with it. Yes, because the reason we're paid a lot of money in this job is because we are paid to be able to process and handle very highs and lows in our emotions, right? Because the rejection sometimes gets to us. The performance sometimes gets to us. The constant, like, gotta get a sale gets to us. Sometimes success gets to us, right? We make all this money and we experience this high, and then we realize, like, wait a minute, money is not gonna bring me as much happiness as I thought it would. And then I've seen people who accomplish big things. They make $100,000 a month, $100,000 a quarter, right? And then they never hit that again because then they realize, like, wait, success didn't bring me the joy that I thought I did. So even in those moments, it's good to process your emotions and to handle your emotions, right?
Yeah.
And were you say something?
No, I completely agree. Yeah, I think that this job has its challenges, and that's kind of the beautiful thing about it is it's made me realize that even in those moments of just maybe being in a lull in the solar coaster or a sales rut, right? Everybody in sales goes through that. That it's okay to not be okay. And I'm still a work in progress.
Say that again. It's okay to not be okay.
It's okay to not be okay.
That's good. That's a
And
bar
I'm
right there.
I'm really still working on that. As a woman in leadership is like knowing, that those stories that I tell myself of, am I too emotional as a woman, right? And I think oftentimes, those things that you see as maybe your weaknesses are actually your superpowers. And maybe that's, why I've had so many reps open up to me that maybe wouldn't go crying to someone else.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that about what I do. I love that about my job, like being that safe space for so many people, especially early on in their careers when things are it's just taken a little extra time to take off. What I didn't know at the time when I first got into this industry and was having a tough time getting started, I didn't know that was going to be a testimony that I would share with my team of now 50 something reps.
Wow.
Not all 50 of them have had the fastest start or the most successful beginnings. And so it's really hard for me at the time, right? I'm like, here I am. It's like COVID. What's happening? A career change for me. I'm figuring it all out, really struggling with it. And now that's just a huge testimony that I share with people. And they realize, okay, just because I'm not successful at this my first week on the job doesn't mean that I can't be in leadership here one day. Doesn't mean that I can't be a top performer here one day.
And what's cool is that makes you more relatable now, right? Nobody relates to the person that it was perfect. They had no problems. They had no challenges where you're like, hey guys, I'm a leader. Yeah. When I started, I got my first sell in 3 days. Oh yeah. I got my first install like 2 weeks later. Oh yeah. I've made 10 grand every week since I started. Like you're not relatable,
It's not
right? But you're more relatable as a leader, which let's actually shift into leadership now. Cause when I think about you, Hailey, you've accomplished, I think, 2 great things that are not common in our industry. And I don't know if you know that, cause I've seen thousands of people try this job. Well, number one is you've been able to have a lot of success in just selling, right? Having success in selling, male or female, is very hard in solar, right? Rejection day in, day out. You're dealing with customer complaints sometimes. You're dealing with the install not showing up, things taking 5 months to get PTO sometimes, financiers changing things last minute. And so the selling part alone is very volatile. Then to go into being good at selling, then in stepping into leadership, that's also a whole nother skill set. I have seen some people that are great sales guys suck as leaders. But then I've also seen some people that are like, average, kind of like salespeople, phenomenal leaders, right? And so you've been able to have success in both where, you came in and since day one, you were always one of the top producers. But then now you've also been able to build an amazing team. I mean, even back to the sales side, I think you sold a deal, 3 weeks after you had a baby, which like you had a baby, 4 months ago?
3.5 months
3.5 months ago. And you were working up until like, I think 7, 8 months, something like that, right? You were out there on the doors, like 7 months pregnant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, so what excuse does everybody else have?
Yeah.
Anyway, so going back to the leadership part, you've been able to accomplish a lot of success in selling as a woman, and then a lot of success in also leading as a woman, right? And so, what would you say to kind of the women out there, or males too, but the women out there that, aspire to be a leader one day? Like what kind of advice would you give to them?
Just keep going. Keep going. Even if you don't have the title yet, anybody that you can lead, just even on a smaller level or help a person out here or there. You don't even have to be a closer or a top producer to start leading. If you're in solar specifically, get a car group together, get a little blitz crew together. Any way that you can just take initiative. What's crazy is early on in your career, the more ways you can help your leadership, I think look for ways to help your leaders be leaders. And then you eventually will become a leader yourself, just naturally, just organically, because people will start following you because you take initiative in your squad. You don't have to be, and I tell this to all the people on my team too, you don't have to be a leader to start leading. Just take initiative, right? I have a couple really good examples of that on my team. Emily, for example, shout out to Women in Solar. But she is always incredible at firing up the group chats every morning about taking people out on the doors,
Wow.
new reps. She is always willing to go above and beyond what her, I guess, job title is, you could say. And so I think that that's the key.
Yeah.
Go above and beyond of what your job title is at the moment.
Yeah.
And just see what happens.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is two things. One, leadership is not a title. It's a way of being, right? You could be the newest person on the team and actually gain influence over the whole group in a short span of time if you wanted to. And also what I'm hearing is I feel like a lot of people, the reason they don't lead is because they have imposter syndrome. They're like, they think to themselves, well, who am I to say X, Y, and Z? Who am I to lead this person? Oh, this person wants to, I'm struggling on the doors. Why should this person come and learn from me? But the truth is we can all learn from everybody. You know, I can still learn from the newest setter on the team. There might be some experience that he went through that I can also learn from. And as you were saying about initiative, I don't know if you know this, but you know, Renee, right? He's on Valor DNA. And I know you're not in that chat, but for the last few weeks, I have noticed, I would say almost every day, Renee is always the first one on that chat to just be like, hey, good morning, DNA.
Love that guy.
Let's go crush the day. That's it. Just like a quick, hey, he just starts to chat. No one told him to do it. I don't know. Maybe you did. I don't know. But no one told him to do it. And so it's been amazing to see the quality of people you've raised up. So what are some things you've done to raise up such quality people? Because you have a lot of people on your team that don't necessarily have a title of a leader, right? They're not assistant managers or they're not, you know, district managers, but you have a lot of people in there who act like leaders. And something I remember learning in the Marine Corps that my mentor told me is like, John, act the rank before you become the rank. And you have a lot of people in your squad who act like they're managers, who act like they're leading 10 people, 20 people, 30 people. How have you been able to accomplish that?
Yeah, I honestly, delegation and empowering. I speak life into all of them as future ADMs.
Wow.
And I start treating them accordingly already. So our squad model at Legacy or within Valor, you know, all the managers run a squad, but within my squad of 50 plus reps, we have like little micro squads. And so just empowering them to take initiative and have their own group chats, or something that Ari and Christian on my team are doing right now is they're doing every morning, they're doing knocking calls. So they hop on a 10, 15-minute call every morning and just empowering them to do that and start systems within our squad. Like, it doesn't have to be me that starts it. And so I'm always telling them, like, I'm open to ideas. I'm open to how can we tweak things? Your minds are so incredible and valuable. And honestly, they see my blind spots. And I'm so grateful. A little biased, but I have the best people on my squad. I love them so much. And so I feel like as I'm leading the team and as I'm a manager in the office, these are people I can truly trust to see my blind spots or ways that we can improve as a squad.
Yeah.
And it really feels like it's not just like my squad, my team. It's ours.
There you go.
We've created this together. It's not a one man, one woman show. Like, this is something TMT is literally the product of all me and all my team captains. Like, we've all put, from the name to systems that we run, everybody's had such a piece of it. And so I think just empowering your people to step it up. I mean, every other day, I'm like, when are you going to be ADM? Like, what are your metrics looking like? What are your numbers looking like? How are you building your team? How can I help you build your team more? Who are we recruiting? Who are we hiring? How can I help you? And so I think that that's really how we've grown so much. No one person can go from 5 people to 50 people in a year and a half. Like, it's practically impossible, unless that's all you're doing, like just full-time recruiting. But that's not, you know,
it's not sustainable. Maybe
it's not sustainable. And it can be maybe exhausting. And so just empowering all my people to really build squads within a squad has worked out super well. So, and they're just great. I think I've lucked out. My people are good.
I don't want to say it's luck, Hailey. You've definitely, there's been intentionality behind it. And so, because who's to say, right? You know, some of the amazing people you have today, you know, Jose and Renee and Ari, like, who's to say that if they were under a different mentor, a different leader, it would have the cards might have looked a lot different, right? And you said something really good. You have an our mentality versus I, right? Or my. It's not my team, it's our team, right? It's not my name, it's our name. And I think that says a lot about your mindset as a leader, right? You have that servant. We hear about servant leadership, and it's a we thing. Like, hey, it's let's go, not hey, you go. We've all seen that meme. A boss leads from behind, a leader leads from the front, and so you've definitely displayed that really well. So as we kind of like wrap up here, what would you say are like what closing remarks would you have when it comes to leadership? If you're speaking to somebody new, a new leader, they just got promoted, or maybe they're just aspiring to be promoted. If you could talk to the younger version of Hailey as a leader, knowing what you know now, I know you mentioned delegation. There was some things you brought up. What would be some of the advices that you would give to that person?
Yeah, I love that question. This year's been a huge year of growth for me personally. And something that I've learned about leadership actually through becoming a parent. As a father, when you have a child, your priorities change just because you literally don't have the bandwidth for certain things. Right. So, I wish it didn't take having a baby to learn this, but I'm also so grateful for the life lessons that are coming with this new journey. We have a saying, my husband and I, if it's not an 8 or higher, it doesn't get our like emotional energy. And I care so deeply about
how do you judge that? How do you judge an 8 or higher?
Yeah. Like, is it like a life-threatening situation, or can this wait till tomorrow? Right. Okay. Those sorts of things.
Yeah. Which most things can wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
We just convince ourselves they can't. I know I'm guilty all the time.
I always want to put out fires. I always want to fix things.
We think if we don't take care of it today, like everyone's going to leave, and like, everyone's going to leave my team. It's like, no, relax. Yeah. Like, it can wait till tomorrow.
Totally. Yeah. And it's taken becoming a mother for me to realize that, because I'm very quick to want to help people put out their fires. I'm really quick to helping people want to fix their problems. It's very important to me, like truly. But not everything needs to be addressed right then and there. Not, the building's not going to burn down if I don't fix this minor little thing or answer this one little question. And so that's kind of our saying in our household is 8 or higher, but really more so specifically on that being an 8 or higher to get your emotional energy.
Yeah.
And as a leader, I think, or as a new leader, we're problem solvers in this industry, and management is truly like problem solving. And I think I used to let each problem take such a toll on me emotionally when I realized that this is just my job to put out fires. It's my job to problem solve. And with a management leadership position, there's always one, there's always something.
Always a fire.
There's always a fire to put out. And sometimes you're running around just like putting out each little fire, pouring water on each little fire. And so if you just take the emotion out of it and realize like, this is just my job, and I am a problem solver.
Yeah.
And anything that's an 8 or lower gets kind of just a little water, put out the fire. Anything that's an 8 or higher, that, I'll allow that to be like a bigger issue for me. So
yeah, I wish I could say 8 or higher. I mean, I wish I could say I learned that when I became a father. I actually didn't. It took me until last summer. My wife and I went to Italy. And so we were there for about 10 days. And when you're in Italy, your time zones are completely flip-flop. So when I'm sleeping, the world's happening here. And when everyone's here sleeping, the world's happening for me in Italy. So when I would wake up, it was like, I don't know, I think 1 a.m. here, something like that. Or maybe not. No, I think it was like 10 p.m. here when I'm waking up. So there was like maybe an hour or two of like overlap, for the night owls at least. And so I remember that whole 10 days I was there, even if I wanted to put out fires, I couldn't, because they were happening when I was awake. When I was sleeping. And then by the time I woke up, most of them were taken care of. But then even then, if I'm like, oh, hey, sorry, I'm just not seeing this. Now they're sleeping, and maybe I have like an hour or two. And so, but those whole 10 days went by. And when I got back to the United States, I was like, nothing bad happened.
Everyone was okay.
Everyone was okay. Everyone, and my wife, I mean, Josie, she's been telling me this for years, and she still does to this day. I still need to remind her from time to time. But that's a great lesson, right? Yeah. Essentially, it's a great lesson that I think we essentially need to put ourselves first, our own sanity first, because at the end of the day, we can't give what we don't have. And if we're always going, giving, putting fires out, we're really limited at showing up like the best version of ourselves. And so if we can just sometimes prioritize and say, no, right now I need to invest in my family. No, right now I need to invest in my fitness. No, right now I need to invest in church. Right now I'm reading right now. Like this email can wait. Let me read for 30 minutes. Let me invest in my mind. And like, I'm still learning that to this day, but I wish as a young leader, I too would have learned it. So Hailey, this has been awesome. I know that, the main thing we want to focus on is women in sales. And so actually I have one more question for you. What would you say to women in sales? What would you say, both to women that are currently in sales, right? I know earlier you say, hey, just keep going. What message would you have to them? And then what also would you say to women that are maybe came across this somehow, a friend recommended it, they thought about sales, they've never done it before, but the thought of it scares them, right? Because they're like, I don't know, like, it's just, I don't know, it's just not my thing. Like, what would you say to both of those types of women?
Yeah. If you just do it, And if you don't see it, be it. So if you're in a sales organization where you're like truly the only female, the only woman, I would suggest, if you're not seeing that representation, be that representation. When I got into sales as a woman, I had my one female mentor, and then she stepped away for a little bit because she went on maternity leave. And for that summer, I was literally the only female in the office. And I was so inspired by her presence that I really decided at that point that I wanted to be that for other women. And so I love hiring women. So if you don't see it, be it would be the first part of my advice. Second part of my advice would be, if you feel like you're working for a company or an industry that doesn't value you as a woman, it doesn't value, like, John, you're always pouring into mine and Zyra's strengths as women. If you're working for an organization that doesn't do that for you, that you feel left behind as a woman in any way, or that your skill set or your unique abilities are celebrated, I recommend maybe you find somewhere else to work. Come to Legacy.
Let's go.
But come work with me. But truly, circling back, if you don't see the representation that you want, be that representation for other women. And just take the initiative to like be boss lady in your industry. Right. And it really doesn't matter whether you're male or female, or like anyone can succeed in solar sales. Yeah. Even if you think you look different than your, boy in baseball cap, typical solar sales rep, your homeowner is out there. You find your customer, you find your person. Yeah. So for women, just go out there and crush it. Just be the top of the leaderboards. Be a badass woman in sales.
Come on, let's go. Well, Hailey, if people wanted to get in contact with you, learn more about you and your journey, what's the best way that they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, you can hit me up on Instagram. My Instagram is Hailey Kam. So it's Hailey Hailey Kam. I'm on there. You can see me on Legacy's Instagram, all over the place.
Well, Hailey, thank you again for coming on. And I know that a lot of people will feel inspired by this message. So thank you again for tuning on.
Thank you for having me. Yes. Thank you, John.
Of course.